Hello and welcome to another Out of Spec Reviews video. This is one I've been so looking forward to sharing with you, and it is my 1-year ownership update of my 2022 Tesla Model S Plaid. And it's been a rough year with this car. Actually, quite interestingly. So I want to go through some of my previous Tesla ownership histories, my experience with those cars, how this one actually doesn't quite match what I've had with the other ones, including my 2019 Tesla Model 3 Performance. And then I want to tell you about some of the upgrades I've made with the car, what I've done with it, and what the future plans are for our Model S Plaid. I also want to talk a little bit about this car's value, if I recommend getting one, and a lot more than that. So we'll try and make it a little bit condensed. By the way, I also have done a 1-year ownership update of my Rivian R1T just a few weeks ago. If some of you remember, a year ago, I got them just weeks apart from each other and sort of unplanned, but that's the way it happened. And yeah, so you'll be able to see that video already live on this channel. It's way too long. If you're curious about that summed up, it's fantastic. If you want to hear about the Plaid, let's get into it here. I'll make a sort of abridged version for you today. A huge thanks to Chesapeake Climate Action Network Action Fund for sponsoring this video. Guys, CCAN is one of the leading nonprofit charities supporting and fighting for sustainability in America. And we've partnered back up with them again this year to give away an electric car. And not just any electric car. We're not talking Bolts or Leafs. We're talking Lucid Air Grand Touring, Rivian R1S or R1T, plus 10 grand in cash, or a Plaid, a Model X Plaid specifically. And the whole idea here is to support their charity, support their fund by buying tickets at evraffle.org. But on the flip side, it's actually really cool because you have the highest chances of winning one of these incredible prizes. So head to evraffle.org, purchase a ticket, and hopefully you can choose one of those amazing cars as your prize. A huge thanks to Chesapeake Climate Action Network Action Fund for sponsoring this video. Head to evraffle.org. This, again, is my 2022 Tesla Model S Plaid, and when I bought it, the price was somewhere around mid $135,000 to $140,000, something like that. I think with taxes and everything all in, it was around $150,000 if I remember correctly. A lot of money to spend, also considering the fact that when I got it, this car did not qualify for the $7,500 tax credit, and Tesla has lowered the price of the car significantly since I got it. Not only that, this car has also been in an accident. Famously on this channel, Jordan had spun it and smashed it into a curb, and that has gone. I actually am not sure if that's reached it to the Carfax, but of course we make YouTube videos. The car is known to have been in an accident that will affect its value. I'm thinking if I had to sell this car today, we're sort of in a lull market for Model S and X, it might be worth half of what I paid, maybe just slightly more. The Rivian held its value amazing. Our Model 3 has held its value amazing. This, not so much. So right off the bat, things are not looking good. And let's talk about what we've done with this car since day one. Well, we picked it up at Tesla in Loveland, Colorado, and then it went straight over to Clear Detailing, where we now have out-of-spec detailing. And this is the car that started our detailing channel. So it has a bit of, I don't know, a specialness to our out-of-spec world, because this is the car that Colton and I sparked the idea, thinking, let's start a channel all about paint care, extreme quality paint corrections, and just next level auto detailing and care. We now have out-of-spec detailing, I would say, with Colton, who's one of the, I would say top 5 detailers in the whole country. With that YouTube channel, it's really, I would say, blown up his business. So many of you guys have your cars going in for these huge details with Colton. He's booked out months in advance. So if you want your car done here, people are coming from Texas, Washington, Michigan, South Carolina. We've met so many of you. It's amazing. And it all started right here with this Tesla Model S Plaid. Interestingly, this is the first Tesla we've also never given a name to, Alyssa, which means it's probably the one I've bonded with the least, which is interesting because I bought this car a little bit out of nostalgia. It's famously, I had a bit too much to drink one night, ordered it online, kind of forgot about it, and then it showed up, and I was like, crap, I just got the Rivian, and this is such an expensive car. And looking back on it, I probably should not have bought this car, because the value, everything it's been through, well, it's just been a little bit of a rough ride. But I'm hoping my next year of ownership, I'm not selling the car, will actually improve, and I'm really excited to share some future with you. Again, I bought this car out of the nostalgia I was telling you. I used to own a exact spec black with white interior Tesla Model S P100D Ludicrous, and I loved that car. I had it on the Arachnids. It looked amazing. It was actually my first Tesla that I ever owned. And that P100D rocked. It was so good, unbelievably fast. We were pulling fuses to drift it around, do stupid stuff. Just so many great memories in that car. We had all the hacked modes, so we could get all of the, we routed access. So we had service mode with all the cooling things. We took it drag racing in North Carolina, took it for track events. It was a terrible track car because it would overheat like this. But I just sort of wanted to recreate the fun that I had with that Model S as being a really special car that I used to own, maybe 7 years ago now, something like that, in the Model S Plaid. So I spec'd it the same. Let me show you around. Fully black, solid black Model S Plaid here, 2022. It's the tri-motor 1,000 horsepower version. Actually, it's just over 1,000 horsepower, and it has been fast, and it's way faster than the P100D Ludicrous. I'm talking next level, and not really next level off the line, because it's just traction limited to seemingly 60, 70 miles an hour, especially in the winter time. But when we get this thing from 80 to 160, that's where it really wakes up, and it's just insane. And I've done plenty track days with this. I think 4 track days now, something like that, at High Plains Raceway. More to come, more upgrades to come, and I've really tried to use the car as intended. But let's talk about the accident. So Jordan took the car home from Fort Collins one night, very early on into ownership, right after Colton did his 1 or 2 week long, full, crazy, extensive detail, and sort of had it in track mode, stuffed it into a curb. We made a video about it, and that sort of put the car out of commission for a little while. And it all happened here on the left side of the vehicle. The car spun into a curb. It sheared off the rear suspension. It sheared off the front suspension. And I was hoping they would have totaled it. I was hoping that, the motors got pushed in, and I was just like, let's just move on. Maybe I'll get another one. Maybe I won't, but let's total out the car. And I always say that if you borrow one of my cars and you crash it, please total it. Don't damage it where I get it back. But unfortunately, this one was pretty far away from being totaled. It actually turned out to be not that much damage, which worked out okay. So it went to Tesla for all the repairs, no paint work needed, no body work. It was just suspension, and they said everything was fine. And I gotta say, I'm not sure everything was totally fine after that. The car felt a little bit weird. It had a couple rattles in it. It just, I don't know, Alyssa, how would you describe it? It felt a little bit disconnected, didn't it?
It just, we never really got much time with it to begin with, so it's really hard to make the comparison of whether it was good to begin with.
Sure. Maybe we need to grab a brand new Plaid and really drive it back to back. But I feel like since then, I've actually gotten it dialed in. I've done some alignment changes. I went back through and we took it on track after the accident, after everything was fixed, and we had an issue again. So let's talk about some of the problems while we're going into it. In terms of problems with this car, of course, the accident was the big one. The next situation is right over here. Someone backed into the car in Arizona a couple months ago. It's hard to see when the car is dirty, but if you get in close here, Alyssa, you'll see it's down here. Unfortunately, the damage is through the paint. I did not have Sentry mode set up on the time, but I know who did it because I saw the car when I parked it. And I was like, oh, maybe we shouldn't park here, but I kind of moved a few spaces away. It looked like this Nissan Versa. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was this white Nissan. I'm pretty sure it was a Versa that looked like they tried to hit everything in their path. The car was the most destroyed I've ever seen a car. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna move a few spots over, and still they managed to hit the car. It was not even close. And I'm like, damn, they must just crash into stuff for fun. And I was late for a meeting and didn't call the hotel. I'm sure they had cameras out there, so it's getting fixed. I was quoted $950 from a local Tesla body shop here to fix it, and I thought that was pretty reasonable. So less than $1,000, that should be remedied. I don't like the idea of putting paint on the car, but they claim to be really good, and it'll solve that problem. The next problem we had was when we were on track, this caliper, this whole wheel hub assembly gave way. And it was actually a factory component because I've done some upgrades, which I'll get to. But we had the car out for some warm-up laps, nothing extreme, easing into it. And I noticed the brake pedal was kind of sticking on the floor, and I've never experienced that in a car. And the car was coming up with brake overheating temperature warnings way too early. We always get them on track, but it happened a bit earlier than expected. So I pulled off the track, and Drew was with me riding in the passenger seat. If you haven't checked out the Martian Wheels video a couple days ago, highly encourage you to. Drew and I were like, what is going on? This is so weird. And it turned out that the whole rear hub kind of just broke away, and it sheared my bottom bolt for the caliper off. And the caliper, when I hit the brakes, got stuck in the wheel. You can see this here. And I have a brand new caliper on the car now. I've actually kept the old wheel because these Martian wheels, I mean, it just kind of took the paint off of it. But the wheel was, because it's a forged wheel, kind of ate into the caliper rather than the other way around. And it's how I'm able to still use this wheel. It balances out perfectly. It just visually has some black paint missing, but it's actually fine. And I kind of like it. Drew was like, do you want a new wheel? I'm like, no, I think it's kind of cool. It's a bit of history with this car. So I couldn't really figure out what was going on there. Of course, the car had the accident. Perhaps it weakened that hub assembly. It was a couple $1,000s, didn't go through insurance or anything. It was on track. So I paid a local performance shop to get the factory Tesla components on the car, realigned, dialed in. And actually, since we fixed that, the car has felt a whole lot better. So my impression is that was a damaged hub assembly from the accident. Again, just speculation that Tesla may have missed in the initial estimate when they were fixing it after. But that's all taken care of now. And the rear end feels so much better. The car feels so much less loose, and I'm really enjoying it. So that was one issue that happened. And there's a whole video on my personal channel called Kyle Connor documenting that process, or at least when it happened. I think I may have missed upload one, but either way, it doesn't really matter. It was a minor thing. We limped the car over and we got it booked in, and it's all fixed. Other issues than that have just been little rattles, little things. You know, the trunk lid actually has a rattle in it. I can show you back here. I mean, most of the problems with this car, again, were induced by us. I can't really blame the car for a lot of these. Back here, don't know if you can hear that. Every time I'm driving, this is just rattling. But
yeah, they couldn't find it
They couldn't find this one. It's been in a couple times for rattles, and they've actually been great at fixing the rattles. Our Tesla service center here in Loveland, truly fantastic. I bring it in, they really listen to my concerns because I'm very particular about the cars, of course. I'm driving everything, so I pick up on these little things sometimes. They fixed some rattles that I had with the rear seat clips. That was common, fixed. There's a few other ones in the headliner that they fixed, and now it's just, this is the last one, and I'm gonna bring it back in before I drive this car out for Tesla Takeover, which I'm really looking forward to heading to. Should be a fantastic Tesla event. I try to get to everyone in San Luis Obispo, coming up at the end of July 2023, the last weekend. So head to Tesla Owners of Silicon Valley, or look up Tesla. It's not called Tesla Fest, is it? That was our track thing. Can't remember the exact name. Tesla Takeover. Look up Tesla Takeover, and I hope to see you there, because I'll be there with this car dialed in, and I'm going to make sure it's perfect for the event. Can't wait for it to get back into shape. There's literally been no other issues than that. The drivetrain has been fantastic. The charging has been fantastic. The seats, everything inside the car is holding up really well. We have the white seats in this car, and it's been, you know, you can see it still looks pretty much brand new in here, and that's because it's only got 11,500 miles on this car, versus our Rivian in the same time period has 34,000 miles on it now. It just shows you how little I've been driving this car. And it's been on a couple road trips. I've taken it to California twice. It's about to go on its third California run. And that's really what this has turned into. When we go to a track day, I take the Plaid. It's crazy fast. I mean, straight line acceleration is next level. The cornering stuff needs some work, and I'll talk about upgrades in a little bit, but I just want to kind of dial this car in because I think it's a cool showcase as to what's possible in a performance application with an EV. And so that's what I have been doing with it. And then I use it for road trips. It can charge on CCS, it can charge on CHAdeMO, and it can charge on the supercharger network. So I can literally take this car to any charging station and it can charge, which is sort of a life hack. It's pretty amazing. So I love road tripping this car. I get great efficiency even on these 295 section PS4S's, which I'm actually changing the tire. We'll talk about that in a minute. and it's just the road trip car. This is what I take on the trips. It's comfortable, it's got a good sound system, autopilot's amazing. I do have FSD on this particular one with the beta. That I don't really use. I've been meaning to run it in the Hogback series, so I'm gonna do that here very soon as well. But I really, actually, personally, like, I'm very impressed with FSD beta, and it's really cool what it can do. And as long as you're monitoring the system and hands on the wheel and watching, it's really fun to use. Most of the time though, I'm not really driving this around town. I'm driving something else now, the Coda, just weird other stuff. And then also B is when I'm in this car and I'm driving around town, I'm usually like, we got a lot of stuff to do during the day. I'm just hammering here, there, whatever. Using FSD beta really extends the trip length because it's trying to follow rules and regulations and not run people over and all this stuff. And I'm just like, everyone out of my way, I got to get to where I'm going. And I got a Plaid, so I'm wide open throttle at every stoplight. And so, yeah, I don't really use the FSD beta that much. Let's talk about upgrades and modifications. Alyssa, what is your favorite upgrade we've done to the Plaid?
The wheels.
Oh, I knew you were going to say Martian wheels. Okay, everyone's going to know the Martian wheels. What else?
Well, we need to lower it. I think that'll be my favorite, is when we lower it.
We'll talk about that because they're coming. What about the yoke to the round steering wheel? That's what I thought you were going to say.
Yeah, I forgot about. I was thinking about exterior, not interior.
No, yeah, the car was shipped with the yoke wheel.
Yeah.
Because it was the only wheel available.
But I actually didn't really mind the yoke.
Yeah, you were not a yoke hater. And actually, no. I was not a yoke hater either. I used it on track and thought it was fine. And I just prefer the round steering wheel. As soon as we put the round steering wheel on this car, to me, it just came alive. I felt like even though somehow I wasn't, but I was sitting a little bit lower in the car because the wheel came up higher, I could actually work the wheel nicely. I did a whole video on this. And that was the best upgrade we've done to this thing. For me. Maybe not for you?
I mean, it wasn't a big deal for me, but again, we just never really drove it enough for me to get annoyed with it. So.
Sure. For me, it was just like around town, the yoke thing was weird, and
yeah, but
I'm not against it. But
definitely the round wheel is more comfortable and less to fiddle with and learn.
Looks better. I can feed it through, especially when I'm using FSD beta, actually, because the wheel turns. I'm not like, there's not a spinning rectangle in front of me. And for like doing quick skids and stupid drifts and stuff, it's nice to have the round wheel to just get the car sideways.
Yeah, which I do all the time.
Sure. So that's been my favorite upgrade. But we've also done some really other things, and I've made videos about all of these. We've installed the Martian wheels on this car, which I can't remember the exact size, 20-inch by 10 all around, or by 9.5. Can't remember. We talked about it when we did the full Martian videos, but I'm on a square setup, 295 front and rear, and the car is very tail happy. I might actually adjust this setup. I might go, run a street wheel and tire setup and a track wheel and tire setup where I go a little bit wider in the rear especially. And I've also been running on the PS4S Mercedes spec tire, and I'm not loving the tire on this car. This PS4S adaptation, not into it. For some of you who don't know, there's a base PS4S aftermarket tire. That's what most people think of. And then there's OE spec tires. There's Porsche, there's Mercedes, there's Ferrari, there's etc. that basically take that base tire and adapt it for their cars. So I've ordered the Porsche spec 295 35 20 PS4S as a set of 4, and we'll see how that goes, because this tire just feels it's not optimized for what I'm looking for. It's very I don't even know how to describe it in a way for it to make sense, but the car has very poor cold weather grip. And also when it gets hot, it gets slimy and greasy really quickly. It's perfectly optimized for the straight line stuff, for the acceleration and deceleration, but it just doesn't have the turn in that I'm looking for out of the tire. It seems like the carcass needs to be a little bit stiffer, and not into the Mercedes optimized tire for this platform. They work great on the Mercedes cars because I've driven this tire on AMGs and stuff, and it's fantastic. And that's why it's really important to find the right tire matched to the chassis. So we'll try the Porsche stuff because I generally like how Porsche tires perform. Which is, pretty good wet handling and grip, and we do a lot of wet driving, and also sort of slushy stuff in the off seasons, even though this tire is not built for that. I'll probably run a set of Nokian winters on it coming up this winter, because I actually did use it quite a bit this winter. Anyway, wheels and tires. I've also put on the Mountain Pass Performance brake upgrade, which is a rotor and caliper upgrade. I've also upgraded the brake fluid, and the brakes are amazing when you drive them hard. In day-to-day driving, because occasionally I go you know, you stab on the brakes, do a quick canyon blast and come off. I've noticed some vibration, some grinding, some rumbling, and I've been meaning to ask Mountain Pass about maybe finding a different brake pad to use here, because I feel like I'm getting a lot of pad deposit, and it kind of ruins the day-to-day brake feel, because every time I get on the pedal, it's almost feels like a warped rotor. But then if you're hard on it and you blow the pad deposits off, the brakes are back to normal. So I need to look into that a little bit, just fine tune the pad combination there. I've also been considering going for the Tesla Track Pack. It's $20,000, which is very expensive, but it does up the software a little bit, unlocks the top speed, which I have run into the speed limiter numerous times. Plus, how cool is it to have an over 200-mile-an-hour car? And then you get carbon ceramics, which I typically don't like carbon ceramics, but I might try and run them on there for a bit. So we'll see what happens in the future, but that's a consideration. So in terms of upgrades, there's also some Mountain Pass suspension stuff, some arms coming to dial in the camber a little bit, and just so I can lower it. I have lowering links coming for the suspension to fool the air suspension that it's actually lower than it is or higher than it is, basically so the car compensates to get another few inches of drop, because right now it's in the lowest setting and it's just too high. It doesn't look great. So especially if you come around to the sunny side, you'll see this. You know, we got 3 fingers of gap right here, and I really want to get it down to 1 finger of gap. Just want to lower it maybe 1.5 inches, but then I still retain the air suspension height, so if I pull in the driveway I can raise it up. So that's some of the modifications. Let's just talk Model S in general though, if you don't mind, Alyssa. What is your impression about the size of the car, especially the new car values of Model S Plaid being incredible? You know, a friend of mine, Dan, just picked up a really nice ultra red Plaid. I can't wait to see his Twitter updates on that. I'll leave that linked in the description. What's been your impression of this as a car?
Overall, it's great. It's fine. It doesn't. I don't think you need a car to be this fast, in my opinion.
Totally disagree.
Yeah. For an everyday driver, this car does not need to be on the road because it gets into accidents like we've seen.
Disagree. That was in track mode, not set up normally.
Yeah, but why should people be able to have access to track mode?
See, I don't like this whole like let's regulate the car thing. If the technology exists for people to go 1,000,000 miles, let's do it.
Well, if track mode should only be able to be used on a track, and so it should be able to know when it's at a track.
Stop talking, Tesla. Don't listen to this crazy lady. I use track mode all the time.
No, you don't. You only use it on a track.
That's not true. In the canyons, I'm in track mode every single time.
I think it's dangerous.
Disagree. Yes, it might be dangerous in the wrong hands, or you can get carried away, but this is America. We're allowed to do what we want to do. And if you want to do something stupid, you got to pay the price. And so let people choose their own fate. I actually think it's a perfectly sized car. It's huge. There's so much interior space. The software is amazing. Let me just show everyone the interior a little bit more here. If you take a look, the car needs a wash, excuse me. But look at the inside here. It's got this beautiful, huge 17-inch display. It's got a fairly okay sound system, as in it sounds amazing. The bass is just a bit too boomy for me. And actually, when you listen to this sound system in comparison to that like a Bowers & Wilkins in our Polestar 1 or our Bang & Olufsen in the e-tron, that car just seems a little bit better enveloped. I actually think the Model X sounds a lot better than the Model S sound system wise, but as a cruiser, it has noise cancellation. It's very quiet on the highway. The suspension softens out. It does have some weird, awkward porpoising over some bumps and stuff. You can tell it's not nearly as well engineered as, you know, Taycan going down the road from a chassis handling perspective. In my mind, Taycan's amazing with all their, you know, anti-dive technology and anti-roll technology in their suspension. This is not that. But when you factor in the size, this car is so much bigger and powerful, and you get the right brakes on it, you get the right tire and wheel combination on it, it really wakes up and comes alive. It's a useful vehicle. I've loaded this thing up full of stuff, putting the back seats down with that awesome big hatchback. It's truly a 5-seat, I'm not going to say a luxury sedan because it's just not, but a premium sedan that can haul ass. And to me, it's just really cool. It's the car that people want to come over and go for a launch in. And that's kind of a cool party trick. It's a modern day muscle car that, with a few suspension changes and brake changes, can actually do the corners pretty well as well.
Yeah, now that the price has gone down significantly, it makes a lot more sense to buy this car. but the price that we got it at, makes no sense at that price.
We did everything wrong when it came to this one. It lived a rough first year. We paid way too much money for it, looking at the market to what happened after that. No one knew what was going to happen after we got this car, but you know, cars are depreciating assets. Sometimes you got to eat it, and unfortunately we're going to have to eat it on this one, which really sucks. So we got to make a lot of videos. But it's a lot to come. So let's talk about the future plans for the Model S Plaid. What's going to happen? Well, there was some talk about me getting this car and then trading it in on the Taycan quite quickly. Well, Taycan facelift is around the corner. This car's also lost quite a bit of value. And so I definitely want to wait for at least Taycan facelift to make a decision as to what to do. It doesn't make sense for me to have a Taycan Cross Turismo and the Plaid. They both serve the same purpose, but ultimately I'm a Taycan lover. We need to see what they say about their North American charging standard. That's going to weigh heavily into my purchase. And I've also been driving Anna's Taycan quite a bit and using that for videos. So the need for me to have my own right now is actually quite low, and I'm enjoying the Plaid. And I also haven't finished telling this car's story and what I've wanted to do with it. There's a lot more left to do. Hogbacks, track tests with it dialed in, drag. I have never taken this car to a drag strip before. We still have to do that. It's actually banned at our local drag strip. It's so fast, so I got to find one I can take it to. So there's so much more to do with this, and honestly, people like it. It gets pretty good views. There's still interest. It's a cool car. I think it's the best looking electric car in the market right now. And so let's talk about what's to come. Well, it's actually got to go back to Colton for a re-detail. The reason is, when it was in for accident work, it's no one's fault, but you know, people were moving over the car and brushing up against it, and there's a few scratches down the side that just need to be recompounded out and polished out. So it's got to go in for a ceramic coating, repolish, you know, compound polished ceramic coat, full paint correction, all that stuff. That will happen after my trip to California coming up here, because I'm going to get bugs and crap all over it and all that stuff. I've also picked up quite a few rock chips on this car, going with a wider wheel and tire setup. You can see especially in here. So I want to have these rectified, and I might even extend this paint protection piece up to here as well. You know, a lot of people choose to paint protection film their entire cars. This is just one I'm not going to do it with, perhaps with the Polestar 1, because the paint is so special, and I would lose some clarity and depth in this paint, but it might actually, should have probably PPF'd it from day one, just because of the rock chip nature. We have some suspension coming from Mountain Pass Performance, some upper control arms, some rear links as well to dial in the camber and caster, and then also some lowering links. I ordered actually yesterday off Drew's website, martianwheels.com. Didn't even tell Drew I ordered them. I just bought them. I don't even know which ones they are, but they're height adjustable. I can dial it in, and the car will go really as low or as high as I want it to go. My whole idea is just to kind of shift everything one down. So medium becomes low, high becomes medium, highest becomes high. So I'll lose overall height, but I never put it in max height anyway. And then low becomes Stancy mode for track stuff, for you know, also daily driving. Just will look a little bit better. Other than that, then it's time to enjoy it. Time to tell the stories. Time for road trips, track tests, drag races, and of course a hogback series. So we have another at least a year worth of content left to do with this thing, I would think. And I'm truly going to try and drive it a little bit more than I have. Only 11,700 miles in 1 year. 12,000 miles is average for most people, but I'm on the road all the time. I also drive everything else, so I'm probably doing well over 100,000 miles a year of driving and testing and doing these things, and I'd like to do a little bit more with this car. So my 1 year of ownership, the first year has been rough. The car's been bumped into, crashed into stuff, and had a few rattles, and just hasn't been right. But we're dialing it in for year two, where it's, I hope, going to come alive. Everything will, you know, sort of be worth, you know, the challenges will be worth the reward for year two. And can't wait to get this versus Lucid Air Grand Touring Performance, and maybe even Sapphire out on track together. So many fun things to come. I'm looking forward to year two. You guys let me know what you want to see with this car. And it just looks awesome. Just needs a wash and some miles. What do you think, Alyssa?
A lot more miles. All it's been is to California, and that's boring.
Yeah, it's been to California twice, about to go on its third trip to California.
So it needs to go, I don't know, to Canada.
But I have to say, if you're looking at one car that can do it all, this is a pretty good case of one car that can do it all. It can charge on everything. It looks great. It's fast as hell. and you can put all your stuff in there. I mean, I don't think there's a better car out there if you just need one thing to do it all. I'd say it's between this and the Rivian R1T as a more off-road focused work truck situation, or adventure truck, if you will. And then actually a great two-car solution is this and the Rivian R1T. It covers everything you could ever need to do with a car, except maybe drive underwater. None of them are amphibious.
Not yet.
Not yet. Cybertruck though. We'll see.
No.
We gotta test it. It's good
Maybe.
for the YouTube.
Yeah.
Can the Cybertruck float underwater? That'll be our title. Actually won't, because I hate questions as titles. Let's end this here. That's my Plaid 1-year ownership. Rough, but we're looking forward to year 2. Love the car. I highly recommend everyone to go and buy a Tesla Model S Plaid at the pricing right now. It's unbelievable. And actually Model X Plaid might be the move, because they're the same price, and X's seem to hold their value a little bit better in the secondary market. We were just playing around with a brand new Model X Plaid yesterday that Colton has in for detailing, and man, the build quality was not good on that one. It's actually pretty good on this, but yeah, build quality not good, but fun factor for the family very high. So I recommend that. Thanks for watching another Out of Spec Reviews video. I'm gonna go put some more miles and do some testing on this car now, and we'll see you on another one soon. Bye-bye. Video's not actually over. I just wanted to show you a few things that I really love about this car. First of all, phone as a key for Tesla works great, but they also give me these little key fobs that I can carry around, different than Model 3 and Y, so I can just have those on. It goes in a drive as soon as I get in and hit the brakes. I don't even have to touch anything, but I have this little slider. This I don't love so much. I miss the stalks still. I just wanted to mention these turn signal things, and it's also because I'm in and out of a lot of cars, but I just think the car would be improved if I had my 2 stalks here. It's not the end of the world, it's just a minor complaint, and some people somehow prefer this, but that I don't understand. You know, rather than just having a nice stalk with a windshield wiper thing here. The other thing is, this isn't the horn. You have to go over here. Basically, I just don't honk because it's not intuitive to go over here. There is a quick little trick though for some of you who know this. I've been doing this since I got the car with the yoke, but if you just hold the right side of the wheel down, it just does this rapid fire honking thing. That's kind of funny. And so you know, that I like, if I pull out in front of someone's house, I'm just like bup, 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 just to be annoying. So that's kind of funny. The other things that I absolutely love about this car, the route planning is okay. The supercharging network is next to, you know, it is setting the bar. That is the best charging network out there. But I also love that I can go over here, I can keep the car in Plaid, I can put it in drag strip mode, and we can do a, I don't know, a cheeky little launch. What do you say, Alyssa?
Yeah.
Because that's what this car is all about. Now, I typically keep this car at, you know, 50% state of charge most of the time unless I'm going on a trip, but left foot hard on the brake, right foot flooring it on the throttle. The front end drops for cheetah stance, preparing for launch, and now it's ready, so let's do it. It's just crazy!
Knocks the wind out of you.
It's so stupidly fast. And you know, I've never been like a whole straight line acceleration guy. I've always been into, you know, Mini Coopers and 911s that are never really that fast in a straight line, but are great cars on the back road and stuff like that. And this is just next level fun too. It's just great to pull up next to a light and just squeeze on the throttle and watch everyone go into your rearview mirror. It's amazing. And the powertrain is next level. I mean, the noises this thing makes and how well finely tuned everything is, it's really wonderful. Now, as a track car, you definitely are managing thermals of the battery pack, the motors, the brakes, everything. But it's so much more car than my Model S P100D was. And now that I have the round wheel dialed in, which I absolutely love, it's kind of a big wheel. I like it for daily driving. For track use, I might prefer the Model 3 steering wheel, which is and a quicker ratio. But for street driving, this is fine. And it's just a car that I need to drive more, and I do enjoy it, and it is going to stick around for some time to come because there's more to do with it. So there you go. Just wanted to take you for a launch at the end of the video. Now I'll say thanks so much for watching. All the Tesla stuff, the app integration, the Spotify, the way everything works, that goes without saying. I've been praising all that stuff forever. The little things is what Tesla does right, and it's kind of why everyone needs one in their garage, in my opinion. It's just, they treat a car company like a tech company and like an ecosystem, which just works so much better than any other automaker by far. So, see you on another one soon.
Oh my gosh.
Goodbye.